Hello there everybody and welcome back to the Frankenstein Files. My name is Connor, I am the writer, director and producer of the Frankenstein Files, and you're joining us today for another one of our season break discussion style episodes as opposed to our usual audio drama format. And today I am joined by a very exciting special guest, the incredible MaukusNoise.
Woo! It me.
Actually, wait, I just realized I said it out loud and I didn't know if it was Mauku apostrophe as noise or MaukusNoise.
Well, to be fair, I stole it from Molly Mork because the only reason I started doing content on the internet was because I was cosplaying as Molly. So I stole Mork from Molly, and so I extended that to Mauku and then made it MaukusNoise because I thought I was being funny, and then it stuck. And yeah, here we are.
That's how it goes. I'll redo that little end bit of the intro, and so I can have a.
Oh no, this is quality content.
This is quality. We'll leave this in. It's all stay in the edit. Perfect. But yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell our audience a bit about you and the side of the internet that you're coming from, Mauku.
Hi, audience. I feel like we may be coming from similar sides of the internet because I make videos about things I get obsessive about, and I feel like the Del Toro Frankenstein film may well be something that you guys might have heard of as well, and a bunch of Critical Role D&D content. I feel like we may run in the same circles, even if none of us have ever followed each other before.
Yeah, just a little bit. It seems like it.
So, hello, other people on my side of the internet who may have vaguely brushed against my content before. I make costumes and cosplays and video essays about very long, winding theories that I then have to edit down to be less than 30 minutes so that they're palatable for a YouTube audience. Woo!
Similar corners of the internet. I realized yesterday, the day before, looking at your content, that you also very early on were in sort of Peter Pan cosplay spaces, which is also where sort of my content creation journey started. Was TikTok Peter Pan content. So that was a fun little coincidence as well.
I love it. I love that TikTok has something for everything.
Exactly.
It's like whatever you're into, there is sewing talk, there's pillow talk, there's how to neaten up your kitchen talk, there's everything.
Speaking of the sort of, I guess the crux of the overlap here is the Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein, which we have talked about not in depth enough, I fear, on the channel here on the show. We've danced around it. The movie came out, I think, less than a week after our finale dropped, and so it was very fortuitous timing on our end. But it's crept its way into our Q&A and every one of these discussion episodes we've done with some of the cast, just letting it seep into the general cultural consciousness of Frankenstein, which is a lot of what we're sort of dealing with here. Yeah, I don't know. I have so much that I can speak about with this movie. I'm trying to struggle on where I start with. Right. I guess your bigger video essay on the topic, your stamp on it on the internet so far has been the discussion of the color red as the Deus Ex.
Yeah, I got a bit into that, didn't I?
I was going to say that it's a very great video. We probably have it linked somewhere in the show notes because I highly recommend it. I think part of the reason that I thought, this will be such an interesting discussion topic is I love how varying interpretations of this movie have been.
Yes.
How fascinating all the views are, even if they don't overlap, and how they can all coexist, I suppose, because I adore your reading of it, and because it was so drastically different to the way that I had read it.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you want to explain to the audience what your reading was, I guess, of the Deus Ex, the Spark Notes version.
Oh, man. The Spark Notes version. Yeah, I also love that everyone's reading is different. I like that about things. It makes it so much more interesting to discuss. If we all agreed, it would be so boring.
Exactly.
Oh my god. The biggest thing I think that differs between me and other people's opinions is like mine is a bit negative, which sounds so bad because I'm a positive person, I swear. I looked at that ending and I went, nah, this is sad. But I'm very happy for people who read it as a happy ending, and I understand how that can happen. And yeah, the color red definitely fed into that for me because it was one of those things I noticed sort of the first time, but you're taking in there was so much in that film. You know, we all remember the first time we saw it, and you sort of take in as much as you possibly can, and then the second time you go around, you realize like, oh my god, there's so much more happening. There's like 100 things going on that I didn't even see.
Just in every scene, there's so much happening that you
you just need to pause it every like 5 seconds.
It's just a genuine feast for the eyes, and it's all like practical as well, and it's just
And I could go on about practical effects for like hours. I am such a theatre
me too.
kid.
If we get into that topic, I'm Absolutely.
Oh my god, that has to be a whole nother day, I think. Or that'll be 12 hours of me going, practical effects will always beat CGI.
Literally, absolutely.
Oh man. And like, yeah, so very sadly, putting a pin in all of that for another discussion.
Sorry, I'm already taking us off topic. This is
Oh
my
my
fourth
god,
year as a
yeah, they're just
discussion.
you can't not go off
Yeah,
topic in this. I mean, it's all on topic, but like, oh
it's
man,
on topic.
and
Yeah,
that. So to focus on Red, or to try to, like, I remember thinking, hey, I think this symbolizes something. Oh, I better go back and double check. And this was before it had come out on Netflix, so I was going back to the cinema every time with my tiny ass little notebook and sitting in a room with very few people as I went like very early in the morning. And I remember going once to like the over 60s get a discount if you come at 10 o'clock in the morning club. And so it was me and 5 very friendly grandmas just sat there with some knitting watching this film. And I'm there with my little notebook and the lights are half up so they can see the knitting. It was great.
Oh, that's
And it was a moment of vindication where I was like, it was Red from the mother. And that made me very happy because my little theory that I concocted at least held water, I guess. But I then read many interviews and bought the book about the behind the scenes making, and they didn't mention it, which doesn't mean I'm, wrong, because it's interpretation.
No.
But they then talked about the color white, and I went, how did I miss the color white? I was so focused on the red, I missed the color white. And I was going, you know what? 2 things can be true. It's fine.
Exactly.
Whatever. But yeah, the crux of my argument to give away everything I do in the video essay, basically, I equate the color red to madness and death, and how it all started from his mother, because Victor isn't wearing red until he has his mother's gloves and the neckerchief thing that is red, which he gets, and after she dies, he slowly starts to go insane, and it affects everyone around him. And I made the very wild claim that the color red marks who's gonna die in the film. A bit like there was a wonderful video essay I watched about how the music gives away who's gonna die in Sweeney Todd, and I felt like it was a similar thing. So the red, whoever you see it with, and then I had to go back and watch it another time to double check that everyone I thought got red did get red. It took me so long, but finally I found red.
What a punishment, having to go back and watch the film again. Oh no.
Oh no, it was so terrible. Oh no. So yeah, they made box office money off of me. I think I went 4 times, 5, something like that, because it wasn't out on Netflix yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they made bank off me that for a couple of weeks there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm incredibly jealous you got to see it in theaters that many times, because of the limited release. At least where I am in Australia, I had to travel out to Sydney. There was like one day that it was playing in one like tiny little theater. It was like in the top of a shopping center. Like,
oh my god,
it wasn't even like I didn't go into a theater. I went to the booth, and they were like, right, if you just go down like this service hallway, you get to the theater. I was like, where am I being sent to? But yeah, and you also, I believe you said, I've got to go to the exhibition as well,
I did.
which I'm so incredibly jealous of.
Oh my god, yeah, that was the thing that sparked my whole interest in it to begin with, and it was completely on accident. I was going to London, I think it was for Comic-Con. Oh man, it feels like so long ago, but it wasn't. And I was going down a day early for Comic-Con. So I knew I had a day in London, and I was vaguely just Googling, what to do in London. And I have some things I do, because I don't live too far away, but I'm never usually close enough to go into London very much. And there are some places I usually go to, like I go Kensington Gardens, my classic Peter Pan route kind of thing, but that's another channel content. And I think my internet browser did that thing where it knows what you're looking for. And I kid you not, I was on TikTok, I think 2 nights before I went down, and I was scrolling, and someone had posted a video of them going around the exhibit. And I saw these costumes, and my costumer brain went, oh my god, they're so beautiful, what's this for? And of course, being TikTok, they don't tell you where anything is. You have to search for it in the comments.
Go digging, yeah.
Oh man, movie please, what's the title? Oh my god. So I looked it up in the comments, and I found it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I wonder if that's anywhere near me. Bet it isn't, expecting it to be New York. And then I Googled it, and it was in friggin' London. And I went, I'm in London. I could just go. And it's free. All you had to do was sign up for a time slot, so they knew how many people were coming. And I went, yeah, why not? And then 2 days later, I went and saw it and thought, this is incredible. Look at all the practical effects. Fell in love with the whole thing, and immediately, got back after con and went to watch the film. Like, I think maybe 8 hours after I got back. And yeah, it continued from there. And then I did get to go back a second time because I was in London again. So I went back because it was a free exhibit. So I got to go back again just before it closed. And basically, it was even better the second time having seen the film. So I could look at all these things and go, in context, I now know what you are and what you do. And yeah, oh man, it was beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I think that the photos from the exhibition were some of the first like bits that I'd seen of the movie because as obvious as it may seem, given the fact that I write and direct a Frankenstein podcast, I have just always been like a huge Frankenstein fan, and I've been so like nervous about this movie, and I'd been trying to like not see any trailers for any spoilers or anything, and then I saw a photo of the creature's the first coat that he finds with the spine detailing impressed into the wool over time and the moss, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like stunning already. I need to just consume everything to do with this. And of course, I adore Guillermo Del Toro's works in general. All the ones that I've seen, I love Shape of Water. I have complicated feelings on Nightmare Alley, but that's fine. We can put Nightmare Alley to the side for the rest of his movies. Pan's Labyrinth and things.
Oh god, Pan's Labyrinth. Oh yeah,
Pan's Labyrinth is incredible. But yeah, no, it's the red as a marker of death and things was so fascinating to me because it was so different to the way that I'd interpreted it. Because I went in with a very heavy basis in like the academic field surrounding the novel and like the horror of femininity and motherhood and childbirth and things, and I ended up taking the red symbolism as very coded to the divine feminine in the film, the red sort of stemming from the moment of the mother giving birth to the sibling and then carrying through, and the angel and the comparisons of the angel's halo to the bonnet that we see Elizabeth wearing, the red and the mother things, and sort of the red, I believe you raised it up as well, the red handprints contrasting the red gloves and things like that. Because I was in my brain interpreted that as an attempt at replicating that red handprint, like it's an artificial reflection of the red handprint from the mother's death. But it was it's like we were saying at the start, it's so incredible to see other interpretations of things because you just get to sit there and go, oh wow, I didn't take that away at all. And that's like so fascinating to hear like how in depth like you were able to go with it and how much this movie like feeds into that with how much detail there is just like packed into this movie, and like it's fascinating. I love the movie. That's the thesis statement of the
Absolutely. I keep like I love it so much. I'm loving your theory. I'm gonna go back and rewatch it and think about that now. Like, oh my god.
Also the film has such a Oedipian element that's added into it through like the mother and Elizabeth both being played by Mia Goth, and then the relationship between Victor chasing after Elizabeth transferred to the creature and Elizabeth. Whether or not you read that as like a romantic relationship or not, which I go back and forth on, but yeah, no, it's fascinating.
I really love that. I am one of those absolute idiot people who, until I read about it and looked at the casting, because I tried to I went to see all the costumes, but I didn't look too much. Like I saw they had a beautiful like piece of trailer that was going on in the exhibit, but we didn't know too much about the film. They didn't give too much away, and I didn't look at the cast. I tried not to look at any spoilers, so I watched it the first time and didn't realize she was playing both roles.
I also didn't realize she was playing both roles at the start,
and then I found out and went, oh yeah, of course. Like I was so dumb. And it makes so much more sense, and you can read more into that. But I was one of those people who just didn't clock it.
Yeah, I didn't at the start. Also, I mean, she's wearing prosthetics and things at the start as well.
Beautifully done prosthetics and a veil. Yeah. Like she's mostly covered through most of that. In my defense for being an idiot, but like incredible prosthetics though. Like, and the way she changed. I mean, hello, they're actors obviously, but like she was a completely different person. But I love the readings of the double cast and what it means. And one of my friends made a very good point who studies film, so this was a very film student thought that I don't think I could have ever had, and we were talking about like how it's almost visual for the audience alone, like the resemblance between Elizabeth and the mom, and even the color red, the color white, and how actually in their world the colors could be anything, and it almost is it's a symbol and a marker to us, and it might not even be like he might be wearing different gloves every single time. Everyone could be in completely different colors, but it's almost like, you know, an imaginary mark of what it means rather than what it literally is. And I like that as a theory too, because that had completely passed me by. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh man, my mind has just blown
incredible.
now.
I would not have considered that. That's
Yeah.
yeah. I hadn't even considered that. Yeah, there's the level of unreality as the audience that we're perceiving it through. That like,
Yeah.
oh, now I'm gonna be thinking about that the next time I watch it.
I know. It gets me to like. I have friends who, on a vague similar theme, it's still Del Toro. Like with Pan's Labyrinth, I have had full not arguments where we're angry, just fun disagreements because
Yeah.
I took Pan's Labyrinth literally when I watched it as a kid. I thought it was real, and then I met my friend who was like, "Oh no, that was all in her head. None of that actually happened." And I went, "Don't you ruin this film for me." No, she's happy, and she got to go to the magical fairyland. Don't take this away from me.
Exactly.
That was probably the first time I remember being like, "Oh, people can read media differently,
Mm.
and it's okay." I just thought he was a miserable person after that. I was like, "You have no fun and whimsy." But we agreed to disagree, and it was fine.
I'm in the same boat of I like to hope and believe that it's real and she gets to go to the magical fairy world, because I think I don't know, it's nice to have it be, you can have a dark story and then still have it be whimsical. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much darkness there already. Do we need more?
Exactly.
Really? Do we need more?
And then look at you now finding the negative ending in Frankenstein, the sad ending.
Exactly. Look how far I have come.
Exactly. Character growth.
To be fair, that's on me. You can ask anyone who has watched anything on my channel where I make stories. I do angsty endings, even if they're happy. There's always something bitter and twisted happening there. That's on me. It's just my determination to see something dark and twisted at the end.
That's one of my thesis statements in writing, and in writing this show in particular, around like, listen, I know that it's been a little bit silly up to now, but it is going to be sad. There are so many deaths. We're not getting away from this like untraumatized. It's fine.
Yeah, we are doing a Frankenstein story,
Exactly,
guys. You know this story.
We know that this had to happen. Like,
yeah. Yeah, guys, that one spark of light you all had in this dark world, we
now
had
it's gone.
to snuff it out. Come on.
Exactly. We can't have any brightness going into the second season. It's not allowed. It has to be miserable.
It's like your D&D character. If they do not come with an angsty backstory, we'll give them one.
They'll get one. Exactly.
You will get one, whether you like it or not. Oh, you've arrived at session 0 with a full happy family who you still speak to.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Me pulling up to our D&D show with the most. I'm not gonna listen. I'll admit, my character on the show's backstory is a little bit cliche. everyone in that show is sad and gay. It's fine. We're coping together.
Everyone in my show is sad and gay too. Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
Exactly.
To be fair, most of my D&D characters are also sad and gay.
I feel like that's half of the course in D&D. You talk about the casting for the Guillermo Del Toro film, and because I was following casting things after I heard it announced, because I don't know, hearing the words even a couple of years ago, oh, Guillermo Del Toro is making a Frankenstein movie, and all of the little switches in my brain started lighting up of going, please be good, please be good, please be good. Like,
please be good, please. Yeah.
Because the initial casting was Andrew Garfield playing the creature.
Yes, I heard about this like way later.
Yeah, and then when he dropped out of the project, it was replaced with Jacob Elordi, and I was so nervous and so hesitant. And I'm prepared to say I ate my words there. He's incredible.
Yeah,
he's got an Oscar nomination now, so like,
hell yeah, absolutely well deserved.
Well deserved.
I think everyone in that whole film should have.
Oh, absolutely.
So many Oscar nominations, from the grip to the costumes to the actors. Oh man.
I was gonna say I would be shocked if it doesn't win something in terms of makeup and effects, but to be fair, it's also going up against movies like Sinners, so I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, hasn't Sinners like wiped the floor and become like the most nominated film of all time or something?
I think it's the most nominated film. I think it was 16.
Like, obviously, well deserved as well. Very well deserved.
Yeah, very well deserved.
Damn.
I was shocked. I'm so I don't know, as a horror nerd and someone who writes horror stories and things, I'm so excited with how much horror has like a presence at the Oscars this year. It's incredible.
Yes, and good horror as well, you know.
Yeah, like... exactly. I was actually meaning to ask you, because I think in one of your videos you mentioned having a whole bunch of reading on the Christianity elements of the film and the Catholic imagery and things. I didn't know if you had if you would want to expand on some of that, just because I'm curious, honestly. Because that's also something that I very much latched onto and was watching.
I remember watching it even the first time, you know, when you don't notice everything, and there are a bunch of things you notice and you're like, oh yeah, this is clearly, you know, Jesus imagery. obviously, kind of thing. A bit like someone did a review of that Superman film where he's flying off into the sky with his arms out, and I can just
Yeah.
always remember them dubbing over it going, "I am Jesus, look at
Yep.
me," and I was like, yeah, that's how it felt. But you know,
Mhm.
I think it was well done. One of my friends who I watched it with said, "Oh, it was a bit on the nose with the imagery, wasn't it?" But then they pointed out some things I hadn't spotted, so you know, there's that. But also,
Yeah.
I wasn't really brought up in any sort of religion, so I didn't know all of the links to everything. Like, people were talking about religious paintings that they were replicating and stuff. Like when the creature touches Elizabeth's hand, and it's like that, the birth of creation or whatever it was, that painting. And I went,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah." But I didn't know it well enough to really clock that together at the time. I was far too focused on neither of them are wearing red. What's happening? You know,
Yeah,
even
what's
my brain
happening?
was off on a little tangent doing that.
Mhm.
But like, I love the metaphor and simile for it. Because you've got the obvious stuff, like, you know, the creature was literally on a cross when he was brought back to life, and all of this, and you know, bringing back the dead. And then I loved talking about it with people because there's different reads on almost who is who. Because you have like reaching for forbidden knowledge, which is obviously Frankenstein reaching for the forbidden knowledge, and then within that, does that mean that the creature is somehow Eve? Is the creature the snake? Is the creature the apple, kind of thing? And then that tangent continued for a long time, and we decided the creature was the apple because we enjoyed that in the end. And then the
Yeah.
creature was the apple, and somehow Jesus also, and that just got a little bit wild. But there is so much in there. And then almost one of my friends who was brought up very religious and is not anymore talks about like the sort of the religious guilt you can get and how that dogs on you, and that fed into the like insanity thing as well. And again, sort of the holy mother thing, and the guy definitely put his mother on a bit of a pedestal. She probably
Oh,
deserved it. She
yeah,
seemed like a
just
cool woman. You know, we didn't see
yeah, she
much of her,
seemed
but she
chill.
seemed
They
pretty
were
chill.
playing cards or something. I don't remember what they're playing at the beginning. They're playing something, I guess. She seems chill.
And like, yeah, all of that definitely felt particularly religious. And then I spotted something the second time I went to the exhibit, which I then tried to spot in the film, and you only just can see it because of all the fire effects that are going on. But the statue, so the red angel, on the creature's forehead, you've got that sort of like cut that's always there on, I think it's his right-hand side, so the audience's left-hand side, and it's this big sort of crack where his scars have healed. And there's the same one on the angel statue, and it's in exactly the same place on the same side of its face, and it's like cracked.
Yeah, that was something I didn't notice the first time, but
Yeah,
someone pointed out to me later that yeah, his scars mirror the angel, and I was
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
that's so. I need to shake the visual designs of this film.
Right? I'm like, I need to know. And I've been very, I'd call it not generous, but generous, I guess. When I've been doing my interpretations, I have just decided to believe that everything was done for a reason, because it was just such an intricate film. I find it difficult to believe
Exactly,
that
yeah.
things weren't, you know, when everyone was so involved and they talk about it with so much love, I have to believe it was all deliberate. So things like that, I think, were definitely true. And it sort of, again, it brings the whole, is the creature some sort of angel, is it an allegory? And then you look at the music and the angel theme, the burning angel, that appears at certain crucial moments, like the ending, and then your brain explodes again as you link it all back together and go, oh man, what? So yeah, there's probably at least 2 more videos incoming about religious stuff, the music, the crack on the forehead, just all of that. Forthcoming, shall be enjoyable. I'll sit there for several hours and write that. That'll be great.
I mean, I'll look forward to them absolutely. You said I've been thinking you were talking about the creatures, the apple, and that's not like something that I had considered at all. And now I'm turning that over in my brain, being like, oh yeah, no, I can see that, because I would have said that. Yeah, I definitely go you mean the victor as Adam, but I from there would spun off the creature as like reflection of humanity, as I guess the consequences of the thirst for the forbidden
Yes.
knowledge. I don't really think of that for a while, but yeah, I'm so because the again coming from like the novel Frankenstein background, it's a very I don't know if controversial is the right word, a very discussed topic, how much religion has to play in the formation of the novel, because Mary Shelley was raised by and like for a long portion of her life was very like staunchly atheist.
Yeah.
But then also I like had periods of being religious, and I feel like given the themes of the novel and the way it plays out, it's hard to not acknowledge some level of
Yeah.
Christian reading in there. But it's I adore how much this film does lean into that, and like I don't know, Frankenstein is just such a like amazing vehicle for the themes that any particular author or creator wants to express. Like it's such
Yeah.
a, and I feel like any public domain story could also kind of fall into this. Like I feel like obviously interpretation and personal relationships with art is so integral to any form of art, but there's such a beauty in a public domain and a well recognized narrative like Frankenstein that allows you to take that personal conversation with the art and I suppose adaptation like it allows that conversation to be presented on a similar level to the narrative that you don't entirely get with a lot of works under copyright almost like you're
Yeah.
allowed to then bring that forth and introduce your own elements to it and externalize that internal interpretation in such a fascinating way and I'm sinking my teeth into it.
Yeah, absolutely. It always makes me happy when someone does an interpretation and they do it well, because it's
Mhm.
I feel like I've talked about this too much on the internet, but particularly when you connect to a piece of media, and we can all get very precious about things, I think, and it's so fun and fascinating to see other people's different interpretations of things. But there is nothing more magical than when someone takes, I mean, call a spade, as I've always described it. It's someone else's work. You
Yeah.
know, when an author's
Mhm.
dead, when you're adapting something, even if it's,
Mhm.
public domain or whatever. But if you do it with like care and attention,
Mm.
then like it's so much more magical. It's not just something thrown together because we can use this now. But like
Mhm.
particularly in this film, I feel like, and different interpretations of the story, I think most of them have, and I don't know the original story well enough to really compare them as, an adaptation.
Mm.
But in terms of the feel of what they're doing with it, it feels very, for lack of a better word, respectful. And like, even if it's going in a different direction, it's doing it for a very good reason. And it's still a very poignant story. I think I said this in one of my videos about it. It doesn't matter that you've heard it before. It doesn't matter that it's not doing anything completely revolutionary, brand new, because the point is that the story still makes sense.
Mhm.
There's always going to be people who are outsiders who are going to relate to it. There's going to be the question of the morality of it, the happy or sad ambiguity of the ending,
Mhm.
and the morality of the characters involved. And that's always going to be fascinating. And that was really, really good, because I think sometimes stories like this can get boiled down to something that's just too, oh, it's a creature that walks towards you and goes with its arms in the air, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we don't need more of those, because we've had plenty of those. I think the interpretations we've almost been lacking have been, ones with, depth, which I think this one definitely had.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always reminded. I think there's a quote from Guillermo Del Toro in regards to the making of this movie where he compares making it like doing an adaptation to marrying a widow and saying that like it is your partner now and it is something that you love, but you have to like be able to acknowledge that like there was like it is still in some ways always going to be tied to the author who has since died, and it is like this you have to treat that with a level of respect in order for the adaptation to succeed. And I think the film is so good in being there's a wonderful YouTube video essay by I think it's Princess Weeks, who in general is just great video essays, but about this movie and about the conversation on whether or not it's an accurate adaptation or a respectful adaptation, which I think are two things that don't necessarily need to be. Like, I don't think it needs to be both. If it's one,
Yeah.
it will often fall into the other, at least in my opinion. But yeah, being able to sort of take the story and find a way to channel the love and respect that Del Toro clearly has into this newer interpretation of it and making it something that does more directly speak, to the outsider, which has always been this subtextual level of adaptations in the past, is really, really beautiful. And it's great seeing that presented in a film, because like you said, it's a rare, incredibly sympathetic take on the creature, which I appreciate.
Absolutely. Like, I think we're living in a really interesting age where media's taken a little bit of a shift almost. We've seen so many, like, almost villain origin stories, some of which were terrible, but a lot of them, it's very interesting to see how we've had the sympathetic villain, but also we've had a rise of the understandable villain who nonetheless still did villainous things. Like, we had a show that I will confess I didn't really watch very much because I didn't enjoy it particularly, but I still appreciate it. Like Dexter, where I don't think you're supposed to like him, but you sort of do at certain points. And then you had shows like Loki, where originally he was like a villain, and it's now, everyone simps for Loki. And fair enough, because that was great. And like, and then you have things like Critical Role. Spoilers for the animated Critical Role show. Like, you have characters like Essig, who people love and call Hot Boy, and has done the things that they have done, but nonetheless, you still have this sympathetic thing. You understand it more, and I love that now. I think we're really getting into it. We get to, like, people aren't just evil, and that's the end of it. I've never believed that, and it got really boring in, movies or TV shows. Oh, well, why did this person do this thing? Oh, they're just evil. And I think you don't always need to delve into it completely if it's not relevant, but I love that we're doing different takes on characters now, particularly characters like the creature, who I don't think ever I've seen as being, just this evil thing that was a killing machine or whatever. I don't think that was ever how it was supposed to be read. But
No,
historically,
exactly.
he has got a bit twisted into that, I think, just this, shambling thing with bolts through his head. So it's really nice to see. Well, one, no bolts. That was quite.
Yeah, no,
That was quite pleasant, to be honest. It was just, he's not
as much
bright
as I'm,
green with a
as
bolt.
much as
Yay.
I'm like deep in my heart, will always have a special spot for the big cartoony bolts.
Yes.
It was nice
yeah.
seeing a version of it. I do adore how distinct and yet like immediately recognizable this creature design is. But I could talk about that forever as well. That's
Same.
yeah.
Same. Somehow it is the same character, but looks so visually different and almost more realistic. Weirdly, I found, like, because it wasn't this complete, almost alien-looking undead zombie thing. It was well, how would someone with experience in, stitching together body parts create it? But also, they said in one of their interviews, they were like, this is his first time, so there are going to be mistakes. If he did it again, it would be better, kind of thing. And that was just so interesting to look at. So, yeah. Creature design, the sympathetic creature.
There's an interview somewhere where they talk about him being, he is in a sense like a work of art. Like he's supposed to look put together and intentional even through like some of those faults. And it's, it almost reminds me of the term is completely escaping me. The Japanese mending practice where they repair broken pottery with gold streaks.
Oh, yes.
That sort of like the very clear, distinct visual streaks or even the red lines through marble effect of like the red scars on the pale body is so it's incredible.
Yes. No, I love that. And again, red, all the stuff going through, the red in the marble in the family house, you can sort of see it all pinpointing through. And yeah, I love the idea that even subconsciously Victor was trying to make the most beautiful thing that he could. And he picked tall and beautiful and, let's face it, conventionally attractive. Like that was another discussion thing for this film, because realistically, I understand, and we all understand as an audience, within the context of the world, this creature is scary. If they appeared on your doorstep or down the street, yes, you'd probably be immediately a little bit frightened, but calling a spade, this is a hot creature.
We have to acknowledge that Jacob Elordi is like recognized masculine sex symbol in the modern film landscape. Like
exactly. And like, I mean, wasn't for me until his hair had grown in, I'm not gonna lie. But
I saw an image recently the other day looking for something of the scene where he's shaving the creature's head, and I forgot how like goofy he looks with like the half grown out hair and just the face he's making in the mirror. It is, and honestly, it's so adorable is not the right word, but it is like I don't know, parental instinct, but only for Frankenstein's creature. That's what I don't know what it is. There's something about him in that scene where I'm like, oh, he's just a little guy. He's just
I have a full transition of feelings in that film. It's like the first one is, oh wow, this is incredible, and oh my god, I'm so sorry for you, and sympathetic. And then the hair starts to grow, and it's like, oh, you're just a little guy with your stubble, look at you. And then the hair fully grows in, and it's like, oh no, you're hot. We run the gambit here.
It's so incredible how much he manages to just portray the creature as just a little guy, just like literally a child. Like the leaves in the water and the way that he's like chasing the leaves down the stream.
Oh,
Ah,
so pretty. I love that. That was the first clip I saw from the film, actually. It was
mm,
in the exhibit, they were playing snippets without the sound from the film, and they were playing just the soundtrack over it, and they were talking about the soundtrack. And I walked around the corner, and that was the first bit I saw, was the creature sitting with that leaf, putting it into the little
mm,
stream, and then chasing it down. And I remember going, my God, that's good acting.
mhm.
Because it was so like playful and childish, but also like a little creature, like
Yeah,
some
it's
sort of
such a
animal.
like interesting animalistic physicality to that like
Yes.
scampering and like he must be just the height and proportions of Jacob Elordi, but like the way that he's hunched over in that scene feels so like slightly uncanny and human. It's
Yeah.
so there's so good acting in that one scene alone.
Yeah, I that scene in particular, I really
Mhm.
always remember that scene because it stood out as just one phenomenal acting. And I remember thinking when I came out the first time, that could so easily have turned into almost like a parody of Gollum, but it didn't. He towed that
Yeah.
line and he was just so in it. And
Hmm.
it could so easily, I think with a lesser actor, you could have lost it completely, but I feel like he was
Hmm.
definitely fully in and committed to that. And I feel like he had fun. It looks like he had fun.
Yeah, it looks like he
I
had
hope
fun.
he had fun.
And all of the clips I've seen of any of the actors look like they're having a great time, which is obviously, part of the marketing and the brand appeal of it. But I don't know, especially now having done production and things on this show and stuff. Like, not obviously not on that big a scale, but even on this show and things, where I'm like, as long as if the actors are having a good time, that's what matters. They're
Yeah,
enjoying being here, and that's obviously adding to the final product in the end.
yeah. I definitely reckon you can tell if people are like stressed or just not enjoying
Hmm.
something. You'll end up with like I don't know, like The Hobbit, I guess, where the
Yeah.
films end up being. I'll still watch them. They're still like visually, they're still very good, but there's little bits and pieces that aren't going right, and just the product. You can't get away from that hellish production for it. So yeah,
Hmm.
definitely just it felt fun. It felt so engaging. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think I don't know, I've just been thriving on the big budget, clearly passionate horror classics remakes that are coming to the screen at the moment. I have my beef and my thoughts and my feelings on Nosferatu. I don't like it, the 2024 or whatever. I don't love it, but I enjoy the
Fair.
trend that it has started.
Yes.
I'll stand by that. It's a very visually nice film, and that's
Yes.
the only nice thing I can say. but I don't know if Frankenstein especially has sort of set this my but one of my things that I like personal beliefs when it comes to like monster stories and things like this and like the grander scale adaptations is that it needs to be both spectacle and metaphor, and I feel like this movie like absolutely nails that midpoint between metaphor and spectacle of like you
Yes.
can go into it and just watch a pretty movie that's Frankenstein and then you can leave, or you can go into it and pick apart like all of the symbolism in the movie, and
Yeah.
it strikes such a wonderful balance between the two.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think, especially now, we're living in a world where pretty much everything is going to be a remake, or
Hmm.
in some way it's going to echo something else. There's, what do they say? There's no original stories anymore. They've already been told, kind of thing, which is
Yeah.
great for people like us who are writing stuff. But it's
Yeah.
fine. We persevere.
We persevere. We'll
We
get
we
through it.
we homage things. It's fine.
Hmm.
But like, I definitely, particularly on like the practical effects side of the
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein film, I will forever just harp on about that. And I hope that they've proved that you can and that you
Mm.
should. Like,
Yep.
you can build great sets that encompass the world and bring people in that you don't have to green screen. You can do all these wonderful things. You can have real fire. You can hire
Hmm.
people who work with fire to come and do the effects,
Hmm.
and I think that goes hand in hand with horror as well, because practical horror just feels so much more real when you're watching, and
Yeah, absolutely.
it sort of harkens back to like scare mazes and horror jump
Mm.
scares effects and games and stuff. When it feels and it looks real, it's so much more immersive, and I really hope
Hmm.
people do more of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, it's been this interesting because I'm a big one of my big special interests for like most of my life has been the Universal monsters and like that sort of canon of things. And it's so
Yes.
fascinating seeing the divergent directions in how it's being portrayed in horror, because at the same time, you know, we have Frankenstein, and I believe that Robert Eggers is doing a werewolf movie as well coming up, which I'm hesitantly excited for,
Ooh.
because
Okay. Okay.
I'm like, ah, that has a lot of promise to it. I'll keep an eye on it. But and then the other direction, you have the Universal Blumhouse collaborations, which are like grounding it in such a genuine interpersonal societal horror aspect, with the Lee Winnell Invisible Man and Wolfman.
Yes.
And there's a new Mummy movie coming out this year as well, which I only learned about
There is.
recently.
I keep forgetting about this. There's another Mummy, but it's not
Yeah,
that
there's
Mummy.
another. No, it's a different The Mummy, which is made by the person who's been making the Evil Dead movies recently, which I haven't seen. But I'm like, that's such an interesting take.
That's an interesting
And
take.
it's so different to the other Mummy,
Yeah.
which is also apparently getting a sequel. I guess that's a.
Yep.
I don't know.
I'm like, you know
That'll be
what?
interesting.
This is cool.
Yeah, I'm on board for it. If they're down, I'm on board. But yeah, it's such a like practical horror is such a. My thoughts are very clouded on the subject of practical effects, because I literally this weekend got to go and see Labyrinth in theaters for the anniversary release of the
Oh,
film.
the anniversary one, yeah.
Yeah, and just like the way so many of the effects in that film managed to toe the line between being like a visceral, not necessarily horrific, but like unsettling,
Yeah.
like monstrous aspect, and being so whimsical and comedic. And I feel like there's always that kind of interplay between horror and comedy, and practical effects lend themselves so well to that, because you can, I don't know, I feel like practical effects in horror are always so great at bridging the gap for people who maybe aren't the most like horror fans, because you can watch it and something scares you, and then you can immediately be like, oh, but this is what that is. Like that's
Yeah.
like I can see how they made that, and it always helps you like peel back that layer of the shock and the fear of it, to be like, oh, like the in Frankenstein, the initial puppet of the creature in the hearing,
Oh my
with the
God,
one
yes.
arm and that he's throwing the ball to. And like I know people who were like so immediately like off put because it's like an unsettling design, but then being able to be like, oh, but that's a physical puppet, and then being able to examine it in a way of like looking at the craftsmanship in that puppet,
Yeah.
comparative to the unsettling nature of it in the film, was like such a way for them to be able to like contextualize the uncanniness and the fear from that immediate reaction. And that's so like wonderful and fascinating to me, that that's something that practical effects can provide. And I just I'm always gonna be a sucker for practical effects.
Same. Same. I wish, I want them, hopefully, because they're gonna bring out a DVD, right? I'm hoping
Yeah.
that we're gonna get more behind the scenes stuff, because when I looked at the Netflix documentary for the behind the scenes, we saw flashes of particularly that puppet. I really wanted to see that puppet, because I read about how it was practically done, and they had people puppeting it for the scenes, and how all the actors would gasp every time, and how it was incredible. And we saw maybe half a second of the people clad in blue moving this puppet, and I want more. I want to almost have a split screen and see it before editing and after editing.
Yeah.
Because same. I have a lot of friends who are really not into horror. They don't want things that are gory, but they would happily watch something like that purely just to see how it's done, because it's so
Yeah, exactly.
and like I love that they didn't skimp on it. They use CGI for what they, to enhance, and that's what I think it should be there for. It should be to enhance, not to replace, because like I keep thinking about things like, to go on Labyrinth, right? If that was being made right now, one, it wouldn't be anywhere near as good. But if they're making Labyrinth now, that scene where he's twirling the crystal balls in his hand and then they fly into the air, they would just CGI that in. They would have an actor twirling nothing, or maybe a green tennis ball, and then they'd CGI them in later. But those guys went to the effort of getting someone who can do that trick,
You can do
put
contact
him
juggling.
behind David Bowie, put his arm in the shot, and made it look like it was the same person. And that, to me, is always going to be better, because you can see them really there. And CGI could be the best in the world, but it will always feel fake, even if you can't quite tell why. It just does, because it's not real, So I will die on this hill happily.
That's fair. I feel like my stance is not entirely that far. I'm very much in the camp for like, I think CGI like definitely can be used incredibly effectively, and there's so much skill that goes into it.
Oh god.
But I'm able to recognize that, while at the same time being like, but man, it would be cool if it was there. And I get like, unfortunately, budgetary wise, when movies are like, well, we can't do this, and I'm like, okay, fine, all right, yeah, if you insist. Like, I'm also very big. This is both practical effects and visual effects of it doesn't need to look real if it looks good.
That yeah, I'll give you that. That is
That's
fair.
the thing a lot with practical effects as well. Like again with Labyrinth and things, where I'm like, it's real in the sense that it's there, but it's not like a realistic thing, and that doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And I think because it is there, that doesn't like that's the thing with. I'm trying to not let myself go too far into the Muppets because I can talk about the Muppets forever. But
Oh,
like
same.
that's the thing with the Muppets of like, well, no, they are real because they're there and you can talk to them, and like that's the
Yeah.
interaction that you're having, which yeah is definitely.
Man, I would love to meet a Muppet.
My dream would be to meet the Muppets. That's
Oh my god. Can we aspire? I don't want to be rich and famous. I just want to be famous
I
enough to
just
get
want
to
to
meet
meet
the
the Muppets.
Muppets.
Yep, that's the goal, really. That's
I want to have a conversation with Kermit or
Mhm.
Sesame Street. I want to meet Elmo. We probably shouldn't meet because we both have the same energy apparently, and it would probably be very chaotic. But I would love to.
It'd just be both be able to feed off each other and just become a little a ball of energy.
The show would never end. Oh my god,
Mhm.
Elmo! I too hate The Rock. Ah!
I had a thought ages ago when we were talking about the Critical Role animated series.
Yes.
Just because when we were talking about adaptations and things, and a source material being in conversation with an adaptation, and I feel like my caveat being that I haven't actually seen the Mighty Nine series yet.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not worried about spoilers or anything because I was like,
Okay.
I wasn't in the trenches for Mighty Nine the campaign, but I'm enough
Oh
aware of it that
man.
I'm like, I
I was there.
my Critical Role history is so up and down. I was super into it. I got into it like a late stage Vox Machina campaign,
Ooh, nice, nice. Yeah, yeah.
and then I sort of caught up and then fell off just before Mighty Nine happened,
Yeah.
and sort of periodically would check back in. And I'm trying very hard to like get back in consistently with the new campaign.
Same, same.
But the Vox Machina TV show to an extent, and then from what I've heard, the Mighty Nine show do such a great job of being able to take that original source material like of the campaign and find a balance in conversation with it of like, okay, this is a different medium. Like, what
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
can we do, and how are we expressing that? I don't know. Just on a topic of the Frankenstein movie again, finding that balance between like what is telling this engaging story comparative to the original story
Yeah.
is very.
Yeah, yeah.
There's so much care being put into that and utilizing the story and the medium in the best way possible.
Absolutely. And I think it shows, like, especially for someone who has either engaged with the original one. Like, for me, it wasn't Frankenstein. I think I'd read the book at some point vaguely, but I did not know it well enough to really pull that comparison. But I could still tell, if that made sense, like, from all
Yeah.
the interviews and the care that went into it. And then the opposite way around for with Critical Role, particularly the campaign 2 for Mighty Nine for the animated show. With no spoilers whatsoever, it is very different to the campaign. Like, the same characters are there, the same rough overarching story, but all the little ways they get there are completely different. And for some people, I get they probably wouldn't like that because it's different. But to me, my big arguments for that are, but it was done with so much care and it's so cool. And also, you've got the benefit with that of it literally being the same people.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I love that metaphor you said earlier about, like, when you take someone else's work, it's like you're marrying a widow. I friggin' love that because I think that's what I've been trying to describe before with things that I love, because I, much like many people, can get very precious about things, and if I don't feel like someone's doing it for a good reason or with any respect, it just feels like a waste of everyone's time. And all I get in my head is, if this is someone's first interaction with this source material, I feel like they're going to never want to interact with it again. And, you know, if you haven't done it with care, then that's just a horrendous thing to do to a piece of source material that essentially isn't yours. You know, if you're going to take someone else's work, do something good with it. Like, yeah, no spoilers for the Critical Role, but they definitely did different things. But again, it's theirs, and so even if they made a bunch of decisions I would never have made, it would completely make sense, and I would trust them with it. And then with Del Toro and Frankenstein, I 100% trust them with that, because you can just tell that they took everything they could from it, they put new stuff in, and they just, oh man, the end result is not exactly the same as the original story, but it's still so, like, beholden to it. I feel like it is.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm such a big fan of the film is so. It's so clearly like an adaptation of the book, but also in so many ways an adaptation of the broader cultural legacy of Frankenstein and like the the interpretation. Like, there's so much of the 1931 movie in it as well, which is obviously like the version of the story that Guillermo del Toro has talked about growing up on
Yeah,
from
yeah,
interviews
yeah.
I've seen with him. And it's someone like that's definitely a thing for our adaptation here that I'm writing, where I've spent so much of my life like surrounding myself with so many adaptations. And I talk about this in our cast Q&A. It's been like, yes, we're like a very direct adaptation of the book in a lot of ways, but it's also just an adaptation of the spirit and legacy of Frankenstein, and like where does that
Yeah.
fit in a modern world, modern context, and things like that. But actually, this could be our segue. I'm so great at those always.
Segway. Segway.
The in terms of like adapting stories from one medium to another, and things like Critical Role, you have a podcast that you're working on,
Oh yes.
which do you want to talk about that in intro a little bit?
Sure, I get how to sum it up in a few sentences.
Elevator pitch style.
The problem with trying to describe it right is that I don't want to give people the wrong impression, because if you come into it's called The Black Dog, and it's a podcast and it's a fantasy adventure, and when I say the first bit, people are going to assume that it's one thing, but it's not. So I will preface this. It's about a pirate, but don't get too excited, because it's not about people going pirating. The fact that he is a pirate comes into play. We meet other pirates. We do some
Mhm.
piracy at certain points, but it is not a pirate story, which is very sad. And one day I shall write a pirate story, because I am a pirate at heart. But it's an adaptation of a D&D character that I played in various different campaigns and enjoyed far too much, and so I wrote an entire story about him. And he gets into a bunch of trouble and meets a group of adventurers, and they go adventuring, end up saving the world, and that saving of the world becomes almost the backstory, like the secondary story, the B plot, if you will,
Mhm.
to a bunch of the interpersonal shenanigans that he and the others have to deal with in the meantime. And it's very fast paced and there's no filler. So if you like long, drawn out gaps between plot, you will not enjoy this podcast.
Because yeah, I guess my question on this topic is,
Mhm.
I'm so curious on the process of having that chain of like adaptation from like a D&D game to then like a prose narrative style to then like adapting it into a podcast, because I feel like that's such a as a writer who focuses a lot on prose work and then is like switched into podcast things, and who also does like a whole heap of D&D storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious with your experience on making those bridges and finding those sort of pathways between them.
I have been a self-described lucky insert swear word here, because I am that annoying person who, when I get an idea and my brain is in the right mode, I start writing and then I zone out for a while and my characters take over. And it sounds so corny and so cliche to do, just, oh, the characters talk through me. No, genuinely, I don't remember half the stuff I write, because I just put the hands on the keyboard and then they take over and I go, oh, I didn't know this is where this was going, but okay, sure. So my process was fairly chaotic in that I don't remember all of it. And I don't remember completely when I started writing it. Because the main character, my character, is a guy called Moxie, who starts off as a complete self-absorbed, chaotic scoundrel and ends the story having learned a few lessons. And I played him in so many D&D campaigns, and then I ran one. And a lot of the story that happens to the other characters was things that I wrote that made appearances in the campaign that I wrote, because being the naive fool that I was, a bunch of us who LARPed together decided, oh yeah, we want to play D&D. Who's gonna DM? And no one had ever played before except me, and I had played like 3 sessions of a one shot with some friends. So I decided I would DM, and in the sensiblest way possible, decided, rather than taking a pre-written module, no, I'm going to invent the entire world myself. I'm gonna rule of cool it, and didn't even know what rule of cool was at the time, and I just made the entire thing and made backstories. I made towns and cities and stories and a big bad evil guy and a backup big bad evil guy for when they inevitably befriended the big bad evil guy.
That's the most important step of writing
Exactly.
any sort of campaign.
Exactly. Beware your bard. Oh my god.
Hmm.
They befriended a hellhound. It was insane. And it was great, and it was chaos, and they did a lot of things that I hadn't been expecting, and a lot of that has worked its way into the story, because I then was writing just bits and pieces, I think, and then I decided I wanted to write a whole thing, and I had these ideas of this world, and I put it all together, and then I started writing it as a book. I got a few chapters in, and then I realized that I was enjoying the dialogue, and it was very quickly becoming just lines of dialogue back and forth. And so I then thought, okay, well, podcast it, make it audio, make it just a conversation. Being that theatre kid that I am, make it just lines.
Mm-hmm.
And love a good play script, love it. So, yep, then it turned into just a script, and I started writing it. I knew exactly where it was going. It was all bullet pointed out, and that transition was actually easier because I think it was just always the medium it was supposed to be in. I will probably write it out as a full book one day if I've got the time, but just it was so much easier to tell the story and find these characters' voices because the talking was just, it was back and forth and it was quick. And you put in this little brackets, what sound effects do you want, and all these silly, quippy questions and things. And then I asked a bunch of people if they'd be interested in coming to voice with me, and I finished writing it fully. Like, I had it bullet pointed, but I finished the final script of the last episode. I was determined to have it finished by the end of the year. I think it was 2023, and I was writing it at about, oh my god, 10:30 in my friend's car as we were driving on the motorway to get to a New Year's Eve party, and I was typing the last few scenes of this script, and we had Epic the Musical playing on repeat, and I was just, I will get this done before we go to the party. And I thankfully did get it finished and completed, and then I posted all the episodes for everyone to read through, and just got all these incredible people. And yeah, I feel like I was very lucky with that because I found the correct medium for it. Like, I would love to do it in other mediums, but I think it was really interesting to go from, oh, this is started as a vague story and a character that I played, and then a bunch of people interacting with a world, doing things and changing things, and then now it's just a bunch of voices talking to each other, which is just wild. Every time I get to edit it, I love it and I hate it, but I love it so much.
No, yeah, that's fascinating because I'm almost the opposite. Where most of the time, if I am writing for D&D characters, it's in the reverse, where I'll be playing a character and then we'll be going back to write more supplementary material rather than like taking the story itself and building off of that. But no, I absolutely get what you're talking about, where it's like, oh, this is the medium that this version of the story belongs in. That was very much me stumbling my way to this podcast as well, where I was toying around with the idea in a bunch of like different ways, and yeah, I landed on the podcast script format, like being able to just write dialogue. And I was like, oh no, this is yeah. I feel like podcasts especially lend themselves to a sort of the framework of stories told through D&D because so much of it is like a spoken interaction between players.
Yes.
Yeah, I can definitely see where it lends itself. Almost imagining the challenge there, I suppose, is losing the level of above tableness that you get in a lot of D&D and even in prose writing, because obviously part of D&D is that you're interacting with the players as well, and you get that sort of insight into the characters and the inside of the character's head through that. Even in a omniscient narrator sort of style novel format, having to find the way to then externalize internal thoughts through the characters in an audio medium is interesting. But like you said, that's where you get fun little sound effects and fun little directions and things.
Yeah. Or for me, I found one of the most incredible things that I got so lucky with in mine. I say this, I wrote them. They exist because of me, but I still got lucky. So I found that I was really I thought about it for a while. The whole, I really hate telling, not showing. I'm a big fan of show me, don't tell me. Even if I don't understand, let me pick it up and acclimatize. Don't tell me something just so that I know. It irritates me so much in particularly films. And I really didn't want to do that in podcast form, but I was thinking, oh, how are we going to avoid that? But then it transpires that context clues are great, just from what people say. And actually, if you listen to a natural conversation someone has, you'll pick up what's going on in the environment anyway. A character doesn't need to say, oh, and the dog is here. Hello, dog. Instead, they can be having a perfectly normal conversation. Oh, hey, buddy. And then you hear a,
Yeah, you hear the dog in the background, exactly, yeah.
Exactly. Don't treat your audience like they're idiots kind of thing. And I have a wonderful character in my podcast. I love them all. I do. I have a wonderful character in mine called Eastleigh, and she is incredible. And her character is very dreamy and says things like it is and very sweet. And so she is almost the perfect way to describe something. If there's anything going on, she could say outright, "Oh, the walls are running with blood," and it would make perfect sense for her character to say that. And so I got incredibly lucky. She can set a scene for me, essentially. If I ever need anything explained that you cannot do very easily with like sound effects, just have Easley say it, because she probably would anyway, and it makes so much sense. But like when there's a few episodes where she's not there, and they took a bit more thinking about, to be honest. But something else I remembered that I really friggin' loved about a non-visual medium is that I have talked about this before, and I will regularly die on the hill. I've talked about it with cast members before who were talking about making cosplays of their characters, which I love, by the way. I do not have, like, I've got vague visuals of what my characters look like. Of course I do. But I am very, again, I'll die on this hill. I don't care how they look to people listening, because I've created, what I've said all along is I've made a personality, not a physical appearance. Like, there are a few things, like one of them's a fawn, so however you imagine that, that's her. Some of them have horns, but other than that, like, some of them have specific hair colors because it changes at certain points. But other than that, I'm like, I've made a personality, imagine them however you want. And having it be literally just audio means that people can imagine them however they want, and that continues to make me very, very happy, because I'm
so 100% with you on that attitude towards it, because that's the exact same that we have here. It's very much like we've gotten questions and things from like when it's been like, oh, what does this character look like? Do you want to give us a description? I'm like, I actually kind of don't want to, because I just want you to imagine whatever you see them as. But we very much have that. I think the closest that we got is in our Q&A, someone asked like, what's a little headcanon you have about your character? And one of our characters was like, I think my character has purple hair. And that's like the only physical descriptor that we have for anything. It's like, great, now you run with that. And that's up to you. What do you think they look like? They exist in your mind and as whatever you want them to be.
Hell yeah, exactly. I'm like, obviously, like, I am expecting maybe 10 people will listen to it when it comes out eventually. In a dream world, you could end up with the new Magnus archives, It's a long shot, but imagine if that happened. I would hate to be one of those people who's like, no, this is how the canon characters look like, and that's wrong, and that's wrong. Like, it's just so not fun, and it doesn't matter,
Exactly.
Like,
as long as you have your version of the story, and that's once it's out in the world, the version of the story is for anyone who's listening, and they get their own version, and that's how it works.
Right. Exactly. It's weirdly like almost changed my perspective now, like, because I've written stuff before. I've done like short stories. I've written commissions for people. I've written before. This isn't like my first ever gig, but it's the first one where I am intending to put it out there for people to listen to and make opinions on. And that has almost edited how I feel about like stories that I really love, like with my Peter Pan content and with other things I talk about where there's something that's, the original that was done by the author. And as I've said before, I've got precious about things. I've got very protective over things. I still am. But I have softened a bit having written my own, because my opinion has been changed, because now I'm very much of the opinion of once I give this, essentially, once this is out and people can listen to it, it is entirely up to them and what they think. They can interpret it however they want, and in a positive way, it doesn't matter. And so that's really helped me to be like, oh, okay, the whole point of creating characters in a story is to share them with people. But at the same time, I do know that within reason, if someone was warping a version of the character I'd hope I'd put out there in a certain way and completely misreading them, that would be a very different take. But in terms of like, here's a story I created, please just listen and enjoy it. And yeah, that's definitely opened me to be like, yeah, just enjoy it. I'm giving this to people. Please enjoy. Please listen. Please listen. Someone, please, anyone listen. After all the hours everyone's put into it.
Me all the time with this show. I'm just like, hey guys, look, there's more. Look, please.
Please, there's more. Please. I stayed up so late finding the perfect sound effect. Please.
God, my prior to like actually making podcasts and things, I formed a bit of a niche in some of the other online like roleplay and streaming areas that I've done of making ambient audio soundscapes
Ooh,
and like
nice.
really in depth. But so I spend so many hours making these little sound effects in these episodes of the
Oh
podcast,
yes.
and nobody knows, nobody can notice or hear them.
No,
It's just me,
no,
but
no.
I know they're there.
And you notice when they're not there.
Exactly.
Like,
And then sometimes somebody will notice, and it makes my like week.
yes.
There was a comment at one point. There's a scene in the show is Frankenstein where Victor is like actively stitching up the creature or what will become the creature, and I spent hours trying to find the right kind of grisly like
Oh
stitching
yeah.
flesh sounds, and I got
Yeah.
a comment about it that was like, "Man, this is really off-putting, but it's so well done." And I'm like, "Thank you. That's
I
exactly
said,
what I was
thank
going
you.
for."
Yes, I did this. I appreciate. Oh my god. Hell
Mhm.
yes. I'm determined to listen to the whole of your lab now.
Oh, thank
I've listened
you.
to bits and pieces. I'm like, I've tried not to get into anything new. That's my excuse. While I've been finishing
Mhm.
trying to edit and do all this stuff, I'm like, no, do not start something new because you don't have the time.
God,
Don't, you know,
that's so
like,
real. I feel that.
like, oh man. But like sound effect, hell yes. I have
Mhm.
spent so long on sound effects and finding my favorites and compiling them. Like my recent one
Mhm.
was I was trying to make the sound of someone essentially brushing against a wall, and
Mm.
that took hours. And it's
Mhm.
there for what, 5 seconds? And it doesn't matter. But like it makes me feel better knowing that it's there. And like
Mhm.
footsteps has been my big thing because in
Mm.
my first prototype of the episode 1 that I put out as just like for the cast to listen to, I said, don't worry, it's not finished. The sound effects are not finished, but just here's a mock-up. And everyone goes, oh yeah, I love it, you know, it's sounding really good. And several people said the same thing I did and was like, there's no footsteps in this. I was like, I know, I'm looking for
Mhm.
some, bear with me. And then I posted it again with the footsteps and everyone went, oh yeah, now it sounds better. And it's just one of
Mhm.
those you don't quite notice, but when it's not there, that's when you
Yep.
notice. Like, I hate a silent room. I had to do a scene with a silent room recently because it's just nighttime and there's like nothing. And I'm going,
Mm.
I hate it. I need something.
I've struggled with that a bit because pretty much all of the podcast is diegetic for the Frankenstein
Mhm.
files, and like if you have a character just like sitting in a chair talking to a recorder, and there's no background, there's like no one moving, and I have to be like, okay, so what am I guess there's wind outside the window, and then I have to find the right like wind outside a window
Yep.
noise, and I have to add like chair
Turn the volume
creaking or
down
something.
on the
I'm just like,
wind. Yep.
yep. I'm like, but yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That like you notice when it's not there, and like trying to work backwards from what isn't there in what needs to be there is such a like interesting and fascinating part of the creative process, because I'm assuming the case for me, but you're also wearing so many hats for the production. I'm guessing the writing
Yeah.
and directing and
Yeah.
editing and everything. Yep.
Yep. It's a miracle that I actually got brave enough to ask other people to do the voices, because at the beginning of this project,
Real.
I was just going to do everyone myself
Hmm.
because I am that person. I'm like, I'm not particularly like, I don't know what my friend calls it, type A. I'm not particularly that, but when it comes to something I'm passionate about, I want to be involved in everything because I just love it so much and I want to make sure
Mm.
it gets done. And I know my brain, if I don't focus on something and I might forget about it, kind of thing. But I was like, no, it'll sound so much better with different voices. And people were interested and it was great. But I was like, okay, I am going to learn how to edit. I am going to teach myself how to do this. I
Hmm.
am going to learn all these things because I can't, one, I have no money. I can't delegate to someone. I would feel really bad making someone do it for no
Yeah, I'm like,
money.
I can't pay anyone else to do this.
Like, no, I'm like, if someone offered, I'd be like, no, because I can't pay you and I
Hmm.
would feel bad.
Yeah.
So I will do it myself. This is how it will happen. Oh my God. And then I remember listening back to some of the interviews talking about Magnus Archives again. No spoilers for anyone who hasn't listened, but
Mm.
I remember listening to them talk about like creating sound effects and stuff, and they said early on, one sound effect you will never hear from us is kissing because it always
Hmm.
sounds terrible and we're never gonna do it. And I have never realized how true that was until I made a damn
Yep.
podcast with so much kissing in it.
No, that's a rule that I definitely have lifted from them verbatim. Where I'm like, we're not gonna do it. We have enough. I will put so many flesh ripping, like
Yeah,
gross wet meat
yeah.
noises, crushing vegetables, whatever, like whatever I need to do for gore. But like the second you have to go into the kissing aspect, like it's so hard to make it sound good.
Yeah.
Which has led to some interesting things. We're talking about like once the episode is done and you give it to people and they get whatever interpretation they want. There's a scene where Victor, there's like a sentimental moment in like the lab where someone gives him a hug, and it's like this emotional climax of like these two people who've been on this journey together, and both of the voice actors after I edit it are like, oh, so they kissed, and I'm like,
Oh.
that wasn't in the script, and they were like, yeah, but we want them to kiss, so like can that be canon? And I'm like, if you want that to be your canon version of it, like I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they didn't kiss. But
just standing there with dolls, and now kiss.
And now kiss. I'm like, but yeah, that's totally like that. I'm not going to put in kissing sounds, so you can read that like rustling embrace noises as whatever you want.
However you will. However you. Oh my god, I am quite jealous of you for that, because it is just such a big part of the story. It's fine. It's fine. We're getting over it. We're getting better at it. I've found a way of doing it that I sort of like. But oh my god. I won't tell you who for anyone who comes to listen to the Black Dog, but spoiler alert, there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, snogging and shoving people into walls in this. And it's fine.
We love shoving people against walls. It's not in Frankenstein Files, but in Cantrip now, a sort of sister show, D&D one. Hey, so editing Connor here. I'm a liar, I guess. I realized while I was editing that I said that there literally is a scene in the Frankenstein Files where Christopher shoves Victor up against a wall and they have a moment like that. I don't know why I said there wasn't. It's not really important enough for me to need to put this back in, but I just need people to know that there is a scene like that in the show, and I don't know how I forgot about it because I really like that scene, but I guess it slipped my mind in the moment because I was thinking too much about Dan and Neff. Which is fair, because I'm regularly thinking about Dan and Neff. You guys should listen to the most recent episode of Cantrips that are coming out. They're really good. That was one of our early things where my character like grabbed someone and shoved them against the wall, and like everyone in like at the table in the recording went, "Hey, what? Huh? Hold on, slow down. Just back up. How did we get here?" And I'm like, "No, listen, we'll play it out." And then the reaction of the entire audience just being like, "Hold on, wait, already? Where did we escalated? Why is he up against the wall? What's happening?"
This is not a slow burn. What?
Exactly.
What?
This burn has sped up exponentially in the last scene. Like, what?
It's like, you know what? Slow burn is fun and all that, but I'm going to scrumple that up and chuck it in the bin, because no.
What is a D&D-esque fantasy adventure if you don't get to shove someone up against the wall?
Exactly. Be they enemy, friend, or enemy about to screw your brains out, you have to shove someone up against the wall. It has to happen.
Mm-hmm. But I was gonna say, you were talking about earlier about getting attached to elements and getting precious about certain elements and things, and I fully get you mean if like there's an extent to which you have to let that go when you put it out like as a narrative and a story, I guess, for other people to consume.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I guess I'm intrigued. I feel like there's a level of separation that I get to have in the sense that, like, this is an adaptation of an existing work. I've got 200 years of other people also making changes that I don't feel too bad about, where I'm like, I feel like from taking your own characters and having to be like, fuck, I have to make like a kill your darling sort of moment of being like, I gotta sacrifice this for the sake of the narrative. There's probably less of a buffer there for your side of it.
Oh god, yeah. And then I am constantly in fear that people won't like them, because there's so many different things about all the different characters that people might like or dislike, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to like all of them, but like particularly, like, they're all my favorites. They are, but there are characters who I know like the best. Like, there are characters that as soon as their voice actor came in, they would give me ideas, and I'd go, "Oh my god, yeah! Like, you get them, absolutely." And then there's the ones like, I voice my character because I am that person. That's me. And I know, I'd say there's 3 of them that I know the best of all of them. And if people don't like them, I will pretend to be fine with that. And I will make the argument, particularly for the main guy, like, he's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and I know that, and that's fine. He doesn't care, and because I know he wouldn't care, it's fine. But just I almost want to like put everything out with a disclaimer of like, please stick with it. He gets better. It's like, no, he has to be an idiot to begin with to learn at the end. It's fine.
Hmm.
But you do get like,
Yeah, you
ah,
gotta let him cook. You gotta sit in the arc for a bit, guys. It's interesting.
exactly. They can't start perfect, otherwise where are they gonna go? They have to start a
Exactly.
little bit confused and
Well, if they,
you
I guess
know,
if they start perfect, you can just like gradually break them down over the course of the show.
that's very true.
That's the
And then
option there.
you can see how they either become a villain or a hero,
Mhm,
depending on which arc you
exactly.
go down. But yeah, it's definitely like it's weird. It's so weird because having
Mm,
like played a character with so many different people and seen him interact with different other characters and then taking him my own way and incorporating all of again my own characters, it's very it's I think it's very daunting, but it's also a little bit of freedom in the, you know, this is just something new and whatever, and I cannot imagine like an adaptation, like the weight of that would
mm.
yeah, not to, you know, pile on you, but you're doing fine. It's all good.
Yeah,
But
it's
like,
really fun. It's great.
I very much want to do adaptations of like my favorite stories, and I talk about them
Mm,
online a little bit, but I haven't pursued them yet. Partly because there is that part of me going, someone like me is going to rip me apart because I didn't do justice to the source
yeah.
material that I
You
love
know,
that they also love.
hmm I feel like my little buffer that I have for that is just that I go, look, there are much worse adaptations of
Yes,
Frankenstein, so I
as
can
long
be
as
like
you're not the
they
worst
can
one, I think
exactly
you're okay.
I can defend myself then, and I am often very curious about like how someone in my position, because it's always part of the thing of like you want to try and tell the type of story that you would want to consume, I guess,
Yes.
but yeah, I do sometimes wonder. I'm like, and I hope that people in my position of being like a fan of this material would enjoy the take that I have on on the material.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I can imagine with the original characters being like, man, I hope that at least to some extent people gel with like, because also there's so much in like an original character that like you're pouring into it just like from your own creative well. I can definitely imagine being like if someone comes in and they're like, I don't like this interpretation of the character you've adapted, I can be like, that's fine. This way it's like a rough interpretation.
Yeah.
But if it's like, yeah, this is the character that I made, and someone's like, I don't like it. Oh,
Yeah. I'm like,
okay.
oh,
Like just
okay, that's just my child. Don't whatever.
straight from my heart. Okay, great. Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just gonna go over here and cry now. That's
Mhm.
fine. Whatever. I'm hoping my main hope is that there's something for everyone.
Hmm.
So if you enjoy slightly up themselves rambunctious scamps who totally have sad backstories that they haven't dived into yet, great, you will love Moxie the Pirate. If you like the dad figure of the group who's strong and stoic but also deeply emotional in ways he doesn't want to explore, there's a character for you. You'll enjoy Van. We've got Eastleigh who's just crazy and wonderful and chaotic, and you'll love her. Or we've got a hyperactive fawn, you'll love her, who's on a mission to find her missing brother. You know, there's that. Or you've got the slightly sarcastic healer, who only swears under very, very tense circumstances, and I enjoy that very much. So I hope,
Yeah, there's a
even
little
if you
something for
don't like
everyone.
my literal baby child, you will like one of the other ones.
You're talking about like it's always such a joy when you like find, like you said, cast members who like get the character and you're like, oh, they're they're so safe in your hands. I like, and
Yes.
I can imagine that's doubly so for like original characters and things being able to like, and I hand this to you and I trust your judgment on where you're taking this.
Yes. Oh man. It's insane how I had a vague voice in my head for them, and then I had people like they'd come in and read with me to do like little snippets of scenes to come and like audition to do characters,
Hmm.
and I remember all of them, all the people I ended up casting, but particularly I remember the lass who played Eastleigh because she opened her mouth, started speaking, and I just went, "Oh my god, that's her!" And I was like, "That's her voice, that's her inflection, that's everything." Holy crap! Like, you know, this must be how directors of films feel when someone walks in and just gets their vision without even being
Hmm.
told. I was like, "Oh my god, please, please be in my podcast, I please." And luckily, they agreed. So it was
That's
magic,
it's such
but
like a magical feeling, literally. Yeah,
so good, such a good feeling.
I'm so blessed to have like so many very creative friends and connections and mutuals who were open to me being like, hey, would you like to do a test read for
Hey.
this character?
That's
But
so magic though. That's like, oh my
yeah.
god, that's like tingles feeling like,
Hmm.
oh man, we got to do this now. Oh man, this is working. This could actually
Hmm.
be a thing. Like
Exactly.
that was
It's like,
definitely a feeling I remember having of like assembling everyone to do like the first. We read through I think the first maybe like 10 episodes in a Discord voice call because they're quite short. They're
mm,
like 7 to 11 minutes long each. So
mhm.
it was only like an hour or so that we were in there reading the first 10. And it was the first time I'd heard everyone's voices all together. And I just sat there going, oh my god, it's real. It's, oh my god. What? It was, yeah, that's absolute magic. I love that.
No, I can also imagine for it being like an ensemble cast sort of performance in the podcast, having like everyone there. Like we're very. It's been interesting the way that our show is. Where I don't think we've at any point had more than 3 people like in a given scene necessarily.
Oh, cool.
But so like because it's always been one-off interactions, which will change a bit like going forwards. But yeah, I can picture in my head like the being able to have everyone and having those like characters bounce off each other sort of in real time, doing a full cast reading is so wonderful of a feeling again to see that coming together.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
Mm.
If I had the money, I would love to be rich. I wouldn't be rich for very long, right?
Uh,
If I could just win the lottery, that'd be great. I
Mhm.
would. If anyone out there is listening, dear God Apollo or whatever, if somehow I can get loads of money, say like make this podcast get picked up, get me loads of money,
Mhm.
right? I would pay for every one of my cast to be in the same room so we can like record it again or do like an animated show because just
Literally, yep.
like having everyone in the same but like we do Discord calls and it was great, but for recordings it's all obviously been sent to me. But that was really good because obviously everyone had already read through it, so they knew roughly how everyone was going to sound. We did the pronunciation guide for all the stupid words I made up. But like
Mhm.
having everyone together would be so incredible, like in person. I can't. It
Yeah.
would be so cool. But they've all, bless him, they've all done so amazingly well just from where they are. Like they're all over the
Mm.
world. We've got people friggin' everywhere. It's mad, you know. But just having everyone together would be magical. But Discord,
Mhm.
it was still incredible. But I am very jealous of people who do it in person. Like,
Mhm. If I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell anyone, but there would be signs. And the signs is just that my entire
yeah,
podcast cast and crew are in one room.
yeah, everyone I know, and that's where all the money went. Like, yeah, I've said
Mhm.
this. I would not be very wealthy for very long, but in this economy, do you want to be wealthy? Like, hell no.
Exactly. I don't think
Like, no,
you don't
no,
want
it
that
would
to
all go on
sustain.
really good stuff, I think. And
Mm.
so yeah, that's the dream. Hey, anyone who listens to this, give me money so I can bring everyone I know into a room.
I think we had this in the Cos Q&A. We were talking about like dream projects and adaptations. One of our cast members, bless them, was just like, so everyone donate to our Patreon now so we can do this. And I was like, yes, please give us $4 million to make a
Yeah,
feature film.
yeah.
That's what we're asking for. Like,
Literally. I'm like, yeah, please, someone pick this up so
Mhm.
that I can have it. I want this to be animated so badly. Like,
Mhm.
I think that's the next step for me. When I've done this and I've finished writing the book I'm doing, I'm like, right, I'm gonna teach myself animation and I'm gonna animate it because I have no money. So that's gonna be the next step, I think. So I'll check back in with you in like 10 years when I finish
Yeah,
that.
10 years when it's premiering on the Amazon Prime, and I'll
Amazon
be like,
Prime Plus for 20,
mhm.
30, whatever. Yeah.
Yep, whichever media conglomeration has merged with Amazon.
Oh my god, it's all just gonna be Disney, isn't it? It'll be Disney
Yeah.
Amazon Fire Plus 3000 or
Hmm.
something.
Yeah. That's a whole other that's a whole other rant and podcast episode.
We'll keep it light. We'll keep it light.
Keep it light, exactly. You talk about when you started and considering voicing everyone yourself is so interesting to me because I was the complete opposite where I was like, I don't want my voice in
Ooh.
this at all. I was like, I don't think I
Okay.
can do this justice. I was like, I'm just going to hand it off to everyone else and I'll just be behind the scenes. And that didn't end up happening.
Oh my god, you did the same thing as they did with Scrap for Ice Age. Just one of the animators was
Just, yeah,
voicing
just
him
one,
for so
one
long,
of the
they
others.
just
Yeah.
kept him.
Hmm. Yep.
Like,
It's
I
probably
love
between
that
that
though.
and that thing in Twin Peaks where it's I realized that Bob was in the mirror. So I guess we just had to make him part of the show now. Like that's the vibe.
I love that though, you know,
Mhm.
necessity, invention, and all that. Like, yeah, I
Exactly.
wish I could say that. I wish I could say I was one of those people who's like, yeah, I can create something and hand it off to other people. I'm like, nope, I will hold on to this for dear life because I love it. And to be fair, I was only thinking I would have to voice everyone because I was thinking, how ridiculous would it be to get other people to do this? I was like, I can try it. It'll be a test of my voice acting skills. It won't be great, but at least it'll be passable. And halfway through when I was looking for actors, I did then go back and think maybe I should just do it all myself because it would be so much quicker. But I am very glad I did not do that because it just sounds so much better with actual other voices. But I could never let go of it enough to let go of my main character. I think if I'd found the perfect person, I would have done. But he's a lot of me. Like he sounds slightly more Cockney than me because I have an accent from vaguely all over the UK because I have family all over and I've grown up in various different places. But like, he is very like almost leaning towards London and Essex. But other than that, he is very me, which is quite telling in its own way, to be honest.
But no, I respect the hell out of having the project of being like, well, I can do this. I can. I don't know. I don't really have any like theater acting background at all. The closest is that D&D Avenue, and then I've also done a lot of like roleplay acting, like streaming and SMPs and live readings and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know. I can't do voice. I don't do the voices. And then everyone was like, well, you could. And I was like, shit, I guess you're right. I could do that.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I'm like, yeah.
Now that you mention it, actually, all those things I have been doing, they
now
do
that you
count.
mention it, actually. Yeah,
What?
they do count, actually. Wait, hold on a second. Like, I don't know, for some reason there was a barrier in my brain where I was like, yeah, but they don't count. And everyone else was like, what are you talking about? I was like, actually, what am I talking about?
It's like almost like you can't see your own CV. Like, you don't appreciate your own experience, you know? Like, when you look at a job posting and go, oh, well, I don't have that because I haven't done exactly that they're asking.
Exactly
and
that
then
thing,
goes, yeah, but you did this, 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 and this. And arguably that's better. And then you go, oh, yeah.
Because also, I was to say, you, from customer research before inviting you on, have a background in like very much the play side of cosplay as well, and the character interactions.
Oh, yes.
Which is always something that, like, having come from the opposite side of the cosplay community where I'm like not the best at that, is something I respect the hell out of. And being able to be in character in cosplay, I get people who will like joke around, and I can do it to an extent, and then I like hit a point where I'm like, now I feel like I'm being like tested on my knowledge of this character, and I can't.
No. To be fair, some people do that, and
some people do, yeah.
Take the crap out of me. Like, I am one of those very obnoxious people where I'm like, the costume goes on, I am that character. Unless I'm ordering food or something, I'm like, or speaking to my friends, I'm like, no, I am on. I am. I've done like immersive acting before in like scare parks. I'm like, no, I am on. I am in role. I will walk into Comic-Con, and most of the time I'm Molly Mork. I'm like, no, I am Molly now with my terrible Irish accent and my swooshy tail. This is me for the next like 8 hours. Because I'm like, no, I went through the effort of making this, and now I shall become the character.
And now I get to have fun, and I get to be him.
I'm like, I have to be him. I want to be him so badly, it's not fair. Like, yeah, I'm that obnoxious person. I respect the hell out of the other side of people who can go, yeah, I've made this and it's really cool. Don't I look like the character? I'm like, yeah. Oh, you don't feel the pressure to literally be them. Oh,
to be them. No, see, because you mentioned earlier like LARPing in the background as well.
Oh god, yeah.
Which I imagine like sort of butts up against and sort of bleeds into that a bit as well, and having that almost improv characterization like skill there as well I admire it a lot whenever I see people do that, because I guess it's partially because it's not really like a thing here. There's not like a big LARPing scene in Australia at all.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But no, it's always something that I respect the hell out of, when it's like, oh, you're able to just like be just like on in character. That's incredible.
Oh yeah, LARPing definitely helped with that. I think it helps that you look around and you realize everyone else is in the same boat. Everyone's doing the same thing. And I think I went to my first ever big LARP event many years ago, and I was quite nervous about it. And I had a real panicky moment of embarrassment, and I was like, oh my god, isn't everything I'm doing like cringy and embarrassing and weird? And then I looked around and realized everyone else is doing it. Like, you have permission to be that. And that was very freeing. I was like, oh, literally no one here is judging me unless I break the rule, like a rule of combat or something, if you hurt someone or whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm not being judged by anyone other than myself. Oh, and as soon as you have that moment, it's sort of like the cloud bursts, and you're like, oh, this can be fun, and then you can just go and do it. But like, it does take some getting into, I have to say. Like, but
I mean, if nothing, it is the perfect environment to be whimsical and to find that characterization like through that from my brief experiences with it.
absolutely, and you can experiment. And I found like the good LARP events I've been to are very forgiving as well. So like if you start with one type of character and then you realize actually this isn't as fun as I thought, or this isn't going the way I thought, I'm not being able to portray them the way I want, you can then swap. You could change out and become an entirely different character. You could edit and sort of like almost reset that character completely and change it, as long as you spoke to like anyone you needed to about it first, and people will just go with it. They'll retcon whatever you need. If it's a good event, then they will just be like, oh, okay, yeah, absolutely fine, especially if you're sort of newer to it. And that's something I very much loved as well. Like, I feel like it's a bit different to my brief dalliances in the world of like professional theater. Some of them have been great, but some of them have been very much like a, oh, you're not doing this exactly the way I want you to, therefore it's like, no, you're lesser than kind of thing. But I found that a good LARP event is they're very forgiving, and it's very like, yeah, experiment, do whatever, and then you take a breath and go, oh, okay, I can do this. It's actually fun, and you allow yourself to have fun. Basically, be a kid again. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. That's very speaking to my experience with SMPs and collaborative storytelling, I guess. Where like the best environments are the ones where it is more forgiving to change on the fly, because at the end of the day, everyone is there to like have fun and tell their story together, and it throws a wrench in everyone's plan if you're just gonna be like, no, actually, I'm not going to be accommodating to the thing that you want to do. With the thing that you're enjoying, like it's such a, and yeah, compared to my very brief interactions with not so much professional theater, but at least high school and community theaters and things like that, and yeah, it can get so strict and regimented.
Yes.
In that environment, and being in this separate environment, it's like, yeah, no, we can change that. And like I've had and other people I've worked with where we'll get however many episodes into a season, and it's like, oh, this characterization isn't working. And the collaborative nature of taking that and being able to pivot into like, okay, so what do we do to make it work and to make it both like an engaging story in this world, but also something that like you're enjoying, and having that be such like a crucial part of that characterization and storytelling kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like, it's that same thing we said at the beginning. Like, if they're not enjoying it, you can tell. If a character is a slog for someone, if they're not enjoying it, it just, even if you can't quite tell when you're watching or listening, something's off. It's it's that disconnect kind of thing. I always feel like a good way to do anything story wise with cast and stuff, or if you're playing a character in anything, it's very much like the D&D game master equivalent of like yes and. So if you're doing something, it's like, yeah, we're gonna go with this, but also knowing that saying yes to everything doesn't literally mean you say yes to everything and everything happens exactly how the other person wants. It's going, yes, let's take whatever this idea is and turning it into something, or going down this route with it, and the and is where you add on to it or you change things, rather than no but. A bit like a game master, whenever I've DM'd for anything, I've been very much a yes and, because it's just more fun. If people keep butting up against walls, unless it's for a very good reason, like, no, I'm sorry, you literally can't do this.
Yeah, if there's obviously the exception there is if there's like a boundary or a rule or something here, it's like, okay, actually we're gonna pump the brakes here and be like, hey, hold on.
Yeah. I know you rolled a natural 20, but you still cannot pick up the pyramid. It's just not gonna happen,
Very, very similar to GMing and things, where it's like, well, as the GM can just like agree with whatever you're doing, but it's not going to be very fun for anyone involved if just everything happens. Like, there's got to be an end or a but and an evolution of the premise.
It's like asking a genie for wishes. You can ask them. Will you get exactly what you asked for? Maybe.
Really, the goal of every GM is to fuck with your players just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, so that it's fun.
I'm definitely a big fan of consequences in as a DM, as like playing a character in anything I've written, and it's not always a bad thing. Like, consequences, I think as a word, we inherently see it as like, oh, you're suffering the consequences. Consequences aren't always bad. A consequence of something can be amazing, but that's the bit I'm always interested in. It's like every action causes something, Yeah, that's something I definitely love to incorporate into everything. So
No, absolutely. I'm in the same boat. Of I love every character I have is either actively experiencing the consequences of something that happened before the story, or
yeah,
will very soon be
will very
experiencing the
soon suffer.
consequences
Yep.
of what they're doing right now. And also, like, consequences invite adventure and interaction and activity in a way that keeps
Yeah.
the story moving forward in such a fascinating way. Like, it's the sort of thing with, I mean, most writing, it's, you hear talk about with sitcoms a lot, where it's like, yeah, if everyone was happy, there's not like a story that we're telling here. Like, something has to happen to like push them on to the next stage.
Yeah.
The consequences are really what drives the story forwards, I feel.
Just when in doubt, suffer consequences for something. When in doubt, like it's like
Exactly. hmm Just just a little sprinkling of the chaos. I feel like I need, when in doubt, suffer the consequences as some like a a sticker or something. Like, just the tagline of this episode. Just gotta be a little bit of chaos just to bring, and it's so much more fun if everyone brings their own little bit of flavor of chaos to whatever it is.
yes. Everyone reacts slightly differently, and then people bounce off of each other, and people are in different moods, particularly with like D&D.
Hmm.
I think it's almost like each I pulled into that a lot when I was writing characters for the podcast, because it was like to make them feel like they're alive and breathing.
Hmm.
Then there are two rules that I always have, which is one, whenever a character's line is written down, you should be able to know whose line it is without any name
Hmm.
next to it, because
hmm
someone, says don't and someone says does not, the way that they write it, which was something else I noticed in the Del Toro film. I felt like every character had their own voice, and that's really important. But
Absolutely.
also, they're not always the same, because people change their minds. People have good days. People are reacting to things, and like that's a whole part of the like yes and in the D&D world as well. Of like, yeah, you're
Hmm.
playing the same character, but it doesn't mean they're gonna be the same all the time. And that's just so much fun to dive into, because otherwise you end up with just a one note two-dimensional character that does nothing, but then they live and they breathe and they do yes or
Hmm.
no, or actually today I've changed my mind on this, or whatever, and that's just so much fun.
I was gonna say, I can imagine like how much of that gets to feed into like the bigger ensemble cast of Black Dog, and having like so many contrasting like voices and attitudes of the characters that get to like bounce off of and feed off each other. I can picture like that being a really fun dynamic. I definitely like aim for with some of the Frankenstein files of, yeah, like showing people on like different days, different emotions, different attitudes towards things, especially given we sort of tend to have a lot of like one-on-one scenes with different characters, and how do characters like act and interact differently around different people, and being able to show those different relationships and how you act in different relationships through writing, and like I said, through expanding that character's voice so that it is still so clearly that character speaking, but just in a different moment.
Yeah, I love. Oh, I love writing characters, man. I love creating them. It's just so. I love making people come alive, and I love it when you see that happen with people's characters, or with like characters on TV or media, and you just know they are so fully fleshed out. It's like, yes, this is a full character who has consequences and feelings and emotions and all that. Like, that makes me incredibly happy in pieces of media, I have to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's almost the other side of the coin to what we were talking about earlier, of like it's a character without an appearance but a personality, and especially in podcasts where like you then have so much room with the personality that you can play with, but you also have to make sure that that personality is distinct enough to exist on its own without like a physical form attached to it,
Yeah,
which is a really interesting balancing act to pull off.
yeah,
But yeah, being able to like reach, I suppose, the character's emotional depth is, I love writing characters. Writing characters is my favorite part of writing,
yeah,
which is why I think I've been enjoying like a podcast format. Because like I said, it's as much as I love prose writing, that's sort of been my main experience, and it's something that I always return to.
yeah,
It's so fun to be able to focus solely on like these are the characters, and the characters are what is driving
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not just the story but the medium, and it's so
Yeah. It's literally just their voices, they're talking,
Mhm.
it's just them kind of thing without the
Mhm.
rest of the world, without like the voice of like any sort of narration at all. None of that is just
Mm.
voices. Like it's such a different way of creating, but it's like incredibly fun. And I do it too. Like my history has always been in writing stuff, but my writing style is so not for everyone. I'm like
Mhm.
I am so flowery, poetic chaos. I love it, and I will never change. I refuse to. But like, I feel like this is almost more palatable to people, like
Mhm.
because it is just lines of dialogue kind of thing. And the way I write it's obviously going to be different to other people. But in comparison to reading something I'd written fully, I feel like this is probably going to be something that at least more people can get, because you can just listen to it. Sitting down
Mm.
to read something, who has the time for that anymore? Like, man.
I don't. I'm still working my way through a book from like a couple of months ago, man. I
Oh
need
my
to get through it.
god, my to be read pile is just staring
Oh, it's.
sadly at me.
I felt that.
I'm like, no, half a chapter of a fanfic, yeah, I can read that, but like a whole book,
Mhm.
no, no,
Yeah,
not gonna happen.
but I'm quite the same boat. Of my writing style tends to be quite sort of flowery and verbose, and my my main writing project before this that I was working on was a very long fanfic series that was in the style of like a gothic literary classic. So
Oh yes.
it's so long and it's so dense. And I've luckily it had like a very wonderful reception. I'm always so grateful for all the people who did slog through it. But I also look at it compared to this, which is ostensibly like the complete inversion of having this, taking a modern story and turning it into this very flowery, dense gothic horror versus taking a gothic horror and turning it into a very concise modern podcast has been a fun little
Gorgeous.
180. It's the interesting thing about podcasts is how condensed you can make it, like compared to other things, because you're cutting out so much of the world around it and being able to show it rather than there's always an element of tell that comes in writing just because of
Yeah,
the medium
yeah.
itself. And yeah, podcasting is so drastically different where it's almost entirely showing.
I did find it quite interesting. I've now settled on a couple of sound effects I'm using as almost cues to say that scene is
Mm.
over and now we're transitioning into the next scene kind of thing. But
Mm.
it did take me a little while, and for a moment I was panicking going, oh my god, am I going to have to put a voiceover in going 2 weeks later? But
Yeah.
thankfully we avoided that, because like obviously in
Mm.
visual films you could just write that, you could put 3 weeks
Mm.
later and then it's fine and
You
everyone
put a little
gets it.
time
But
cut or something.
yeah, in audio form, obviously, there is no, at least, audio time card without a narrator, which I
Mm.
don't have in mine. So, yeah, I ended up settling on some sound effects and was happy with those. And I think it reads fine, like when I've been listening back. But it was a really interesting process of going like, right, I know the passage of time is skipping. How can I now show everyone else? And I've sort of landed on dropping people right into the middle of a scene tends to help rather than trying to
Mm.
start one. That's been really
Definitely, yeah.
good. They drop into the middle of the action or the middle of a conversation kind of thing, and then they can pick up the context clues and work it all out for themselves. I'm not hand holding here. We're showing, not telling here. You guys are just on for the ride.
I think I don't know, at least with the format of Frankenstein Files here, I'm lucky in that because it's diegetic and there's like, the cassette tapes, there's a very distinct like, okay, this scene is done, you hear like the
Yes.
tape click finished, and then I can start again and you like understand that. But I've definitely had special I did for Cantrip. I had to sit there and try and come up with a way of like, okay, how do I audibly signal
Yeah.
that we're jumping back however many months in time and then jumping back forwards and like interrupting the flow of like passage of time, and yeah, having to find like a sound effect to be like, okay, now there's a time skip and that's what this means.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like audio equivalent of the woodly woodly woo. We're going.
Exactly, like the little wobbling screen. Yep. There's so many wonderful clock ticking reverse sounds that I play around with.
Oh, yes. There's going to be. It's not really a spoiler, but like in the second to last episode, there is some clock ticking sound effects. I am nowhere near having to do them yet, but I found them. I know. I found them. I know what they're going to sound like. I wrote them in the script. I was like, the clock ticks slower. I'm like, this is going to sound great. I'm like 40 episodes away from that right now, but
That was me at the beginning of Frankenstein Files being like, okay, I know that in 6 months' time, I'm gonna
Yeah.
need so many electricity noises. to
Yeah,
sound
yeah,
the
yeah.
way that I want. So I'm just going to start collecting electricity noises right now
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that I have
And
a
I'm gonna collect
backlog I
them
can
and
choose
put them
from.
in this little file,
In this
label,
little
and then
jar
I'll
right
know
here.
what I need.
Exactly.
Yep, I got that. I spent, I think, 2.5 hours trying to find the right hoof sounds for the fawn.
I was
Because,
literally just thinking, because you talked about footsteps and walking earlier, and I'm like, but
yeah,
you said there's a fawn. You're going to have so many varying
yeah.
footstep sounds and hoof print
I
sounds.
have got, oh my god, I've got the massive, tall, flamey elf guy and his heavy footsteps. I've got the light, little, dancey footsteps. I've got the human footsteps. I've got the fawn. My main character has a metal peg leg, so I've had to handcraft and put together
Hmm.
sound effects to make the sound of a clunk, dunk, clunk, dunk. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we do it because we love them, but oh my friggin' god.
Exactly. I feel like the
Why do
closest
they
I
all have
had
to be
to.
walking so much?
Because also, at least the thing I've found when it comes to like characters that have like hooves or anything like that, is that it's always, if you find like animal sound effects, it's always four legs. And
Yep.
so I have to go through and try and find ones that sound like
Yep.
two.
Yep.
Like I had for one of the SMPs I was part of, a year after it finished, one of the cast did like an epilogue, essentially like podcast thing. It was like a mini series, and I helped with all the soundscaping and the sound design for it. And one of the characters was an anthropomorphic bear who walked on two legs, and I had
Wow.
to like try and find sounds that sounded like paw prints, like walking, but like two-legged heavy bear paw prints. And I was like, what? Nowhere makes that sound. Like I had to like
No.
find ways to like merge like claw clicking sounds and also paw prints, but at the right pace. And it was so, yeah.
Yeah.
I could I
Oh
can
my
imagine with the
god.
metal peg leg making it sound like the right level of resonance with the steps is,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Ah, I hate it. I hate it. No, I love it. I do. I will never complain because I'm really enjoying it, but oh my god.
Exactly. Yeah.
If this
Feel the
was
same
my
with.
job, I would come home every day going, I love my job, but my god, I spent
Hmm.
2.5 hours today making a foot click, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's so much easier when they're, like, blowing something up. Like, I finished
Hmm.
editing a really early episode where a ship explodes, right? It explodes in the water, so what you need is the ocean, the waves, the explodey sound, the fire, the crew, the running, and then a load of splashes as things are falling in the water.
Hmm.
And it took me forever, but that was so much easier than friggin' footsteps.
That's the thing of like the like big climactic bringing the creature to life lightning storm scene took forever, but it was so much easier to like put all those sounds together than it
Yeah.
is like, well, I need to have this character walking around upstairs on a wooden floor,
Oh my
and then they
god,
come
yeah.
down the stairs and then like open the door, and I'm like, okay, but all the I could talk for about footstep sounds because there's so many, because depending on whatever the texture of the floor is, it sounds different,
Yeah.
and so I need to find like, I need to be a wooden floor, but like a first story wooden floor, so it's not as echoey as a second story wooden floor. I'm like, this is it's going to drive me insane someday. Just being
Yeah.
like, okay, I need a door that sounds like someone opening a door quickly, but not like throwing open a door. Like it's
Yes,
the
it's not
minutia of like
banging open a
casual.
door, it's
Yeah.
just quickly.
Because that's like, I think we mentioned earlier, like if it's not quite, and especially like relatively everyday sounds like walking or like opening a door or like putting a cup down on a table, if that sounds wrong, the audience knows that what that's supposed to sound like. Like you have all the creative liberties in the world for like, yeah, like a ship exploding into the water, because that's
Yeah.
so heightened comparative to real life. But if
Right?
someone's like, that's not what opening a drawer full of cutlery sounds like, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, it's
Yeah,
not.
you're right, damn it, no. And then no one wants to be that podcast that gets popular because of how terrible the sound effects are. Like, but
Exactly.
I'm trying, okay? Just bear with me. They sound like footsteps, it's vaguely carpet. Let's just go with
Vaguely,
it. Can we all
exactly, it's
agree
close enough.
he was walking?
He got from point A to point B, and that's what matters. Please just listen to the dialogue, it's fine.
Yeah, please. We're here for the plot, not the footsteps. Please, please, guys.
Yeah, with that, I'm realizing now that we've been going for quite a while. wrap it up if that that was okay, just so I'm
No,
not
that is fine. That is fine.
editing for days and days at a time.
We've covered all the topics.
I think we've covered all the topics.
We did well.
I think we've covered more than the topics. We've gone so far off track on so many things.
We tangented. Oh no.
But thank you so much for joining me today on our podcast and guesting. It's been so much fun to have you and to chat with you. It's been a great time.
Hell yeah, it's been fun. It was great. Thank you for inviting me on. This was absolutely hilarious and grand.
Of course, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Would you like to, I guess, plug anything on your end, social-wise, content-wise, while you're on here for our audience?
Yeah, do it. I'm plug all my stuff. Basically, I'm the same on everything. I'm at MaukusNoise. M-A-U. Wait, I'm doubting my own ability to spell my own handle now. M-A-U-K-U-S. N-O-I-S-E. I did it! Hey! I'm that one, everything. I'm vaguely on Twitch, but I don't stream yet, so just bear with me on that one. I do YouTube videos. I talk about Frankenstein and Critical Role and cosplay stuff. I make stuff. You can see me make things. It's great. I do improvised storytelling, which I'm going to try and do on Twitch at some point as well, where you guys in the comments essentially give me ideas and I just go with it and then create a story as I go. It's been quite fun so far. On TikTok, I do cosplay. A lot of mollymork. Lots of mollymork. I'm doing the Black Dog podcast, which is got its own social medias as well. Look for the Black Dog podcast on places. The symbol is a little pirate flag with a little dog skull on it, which is based after my own dog. So that's kind of cute. And that will be coming out at some point soon. I'm aiming to have the first bunch out in June to celebrate Pride Month, because there's a lot of there's a lot of queerness in this. It's not immediately obvious, but spoiler alert, there's so much. So much. There are gay pirates in this, okay? Just come for the chaos and stay for the gay pirates.
Best kind of pirates.
I said, like, the saving the world plot is the B plot. The main plot is the gay pirates. And I'm not ashamed of that, we can save the world anytime. The gay pirates come first.
Exactly. Listen, all of our shows here are so gay. That's the
entire... We need more. We need more. Give us more gay.
Exactly.
Gay it must be.
I was gonna say, if you wanted to send me social links and things, I can put them all in the episode description, show notes and things.
I will do that. I can send you all the linky things. Absolutely. So yeah, podcast has its own stuff. There's not a lot on there yet because I just started. I think the Black Dog's got a TikTok and an Instagram and a YouTube, but there's nothing there yet because I'm not posting yet. But there will be soon because I'm determined to have it all finished and done by the end of the year. The first episodes are coming out in June. I am determined it's going to happen, and it will finish sometime in October, I reckon, because
hell yeah.
I have dreams and goals, and much as I love it, I'm in that mindset now where I want it to be finished so I can enjoy posting it. I want it to be done.
That's so real. But thank you all so much for listening for this episode. I know it's slightly different to our narrative audio drama style of podcast, but hopefully you guys are enjoying our sort of season break, more casual discussion style episodes. There should be a couple more of these before we pick up with the show in season 2. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Mauku, for joining me for today. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
It has.
Yeah. I guess we'll wrap up. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Version of that genre where I'm now taking a gothic horror novel. What is? Sorry, my Siri just started talking to me from the other side of the room and it scared the crap out of me. I don't know what I said, but my iPad started talking at me from the other side. I'll be right back.
You said something. I shall talk to fill the silence, so that when you are editing, you will have something to listen to. Do. Frankenstein. Del Toro. Leaf for me. Leaf. That's something that's hilarious thinking about that. I have seen so many memes and pieces of art of that moment of a leaf for me, thank you.
A leaf.
And I love it. I thought I'd entertain you for your editing when I was alone.
Editing kind of gets to cut out.
How you doing?
Much.
Have you stretched in a few hours? Probably haven't.